Welcome back to the channel. So I thought this week we would just have a look at this built up example of the Stug III F from Takom, which we've just done a review on last week. So this gives us a good idea of what we're looking at. Now, as much as I was hoping I'd be able to, this hasn't been built in a week. The way the videos obviously go out, there's a bit of a plan to it. And I'm generally ahead of things, but I thought as I've just finished this one up, it did fit to go out, and I thought it was fitting to really round off last week's inbox review, which can't tell you much more than what the parts look like, to a build review. And very impressed with the kit. There are a number of tricky spots, I suppose, that you can get into a muddle if you don't quite do it the way that I've done it, or the way that a different way rather than what the instructions say. I'm going to start with the gun. First off, the roof isn't on at that point. I have filmed this, so this will go out as a proper build video at some point. When the roof isn't on, this part here behind the gun is also not there. They say to slot the gun in like that. Now that would work. And why did I choose not to? Because actually, as saying all that, it might be my fault. Yes, that doesn't quite go the way they say. So what they've got here of just pushing that gun in there, it doesn't actually fit here very well, and it's very sort of loose also here. So what I did, I took this section off. Sorry, we're going to be playing around with the lights a little bit. So I took this, I'm going to call it mantlet for want of a better word, off of the actual bit of gun there, and then fixed all this up how I wanted it, and thought that's brilliant. And then actually getting this on, it was elevate the gun as high as it will go, and it was a bit of a twist and push to slot it in past this bit, but we got there in the end, and I felt like it was a better way to go for lining everything up. But it's something you just want to sort of, think about when you're at that point. The photo etch, again, the instructions are extremely small, right? So it's very easy to miss stuff. There is this sort of photo etch piece running along here, which is meant, as far as I can tell, meant to be vertical off of the fenders, and I didn't notice until I'd put this intake on, so it was quite difficult to make it vertical. I could get it in there, but it kept sort of lying down, so you can imagine what that was like. But we got there in the end, and it's sort of out of the way. I mean, you can only see it this side. Here it's got a jack and a starter and all sorts, so that's very good. The tow cables are fine. Now what I did is glued these in where they told me to put them. Glued these little photo etch bits in, which were actually not too much of an issue. They look fiddly, but they're okay. They're like a sort of, one end is bent around and the other end is a right angle, and it's meant to just grab hold of the tow cable. And what this allows for is, because you've got drilled out tow cable eyes, you can actually now take them out, and we can take that off. So we can paint all the bits that are going to be the base colour, and then we can paint this up separately. So that's something I'm going to do. I think on camera I'm going to take all the bits off, and this is a testament to how good the kit is. A fair bit of this is push fit. So for instance, the gun barrel is just pushed in, and the muzzle brake is just pushed on. So I haven't actually properly lined any of that up yet. I will before painting. I just wanted to sort of get it in there and take a bit of time thinking about it. There's also these doors, which leads on to another interesting part of this. So these are push fit in, as you can see. I'm going to leave them in like that so I can paint them. And then when I've painted one side and it's dried off, because I'm going to be using MRP, hopefully Panzer Grey, and we'll get into that in a second, that will, I can spray up this side and then I can just flip them and spray the external side. Because my plan for this kit is to have both doors open and use this tank crew set. Because this is a Takom vehicle. I was going to probably use, you know, this chap, stick him in the top of the Stug, and I don't know, maybe have another chap sat on the side of it. I'm not too sure yet. Maybe have one stood next to it, and maybe have it as a... actually, my vision was having it as a sort of moving scene, but it might be that it's a static scene. But what I wanted to do with this, as I've built it, and I'm not 50-50, I'm committed to it, but I've actually got to do it, is we've got the Nationals coming up here in the UK, and I'd like to enter this into the competition, not because I think, oh, this is going to win. It's because I've got a bit of an issue with armour in my own mind, and I need to force myself, well, I want to force myself, don't need to force myself, just to enter something, to sort of get the ball rolling, because I've got a bit of I'm very critical of my armour, and I think that's a good thing. I see it as a very good thing, because then you can get better. If you're very critical on your builds, you can see what you've done wrong, look at things to improve and move forward. So this is one I've selected that I hope I can do, and my plan was to do it in Panzer Grey with a winter whitewash, you know, like chipped back as the whitewash. So we'll see how that goes. I've got about 6 good weeks to get it done. Evenings, a couple of weekends. So we'll see what happens. Now, because of that, I cannot put these figures in for the class I'd want to enter it in, because this is an out-of-the-box build, and you can only use figures that come with the kit. So I would present it in the competition as this, with doors shut and everything as it is. And then when we get it back, add it to a base and add the figures to it. So that's why I wanted to leave the doors as they are, and I'm pretty happy that they're you know, just a push fit. That's fantastic. So that's why there's no figures on this at the minute. As I look around the Superstructure, there was a little bit of an issue here, just with these parts mating up. So what I was left with, maybe I'm still left with, this was an absolute solid join. So this is a part that you glue on to the Superstructure, and then you glue this to that, and then it's meant to mate up here and here. Now this is a door, so I'm not totally worried about that. There should be a, you know, a noticeable gap, but this here, this section through to here, is bolted into the Superstructure, and I think I've got away with it. I think a tiny bit of filler just rubbed in there. I think this is fine here to there, and I'll just probably fill this area here. What I found was there was quite a bit of flash on this piece here, so that was not allowing them to mate up. Once I cleared that off and then used a good amount of Tamiya Extra Thin, it sort of melted some plastic which helped fill it, and it mated up pretty well. And when you see these doors as well, if you can, where you got that little gap, it's not easy and it won't always work, but sometimes there's just a little bit of flash on these ends here, and what you really want, that gap there, is almost better to be in the middle, because that's kind of where the gap would be rather than up against here, or, you know, an even gap, if you know what I mean. So overall build, very good, very enjoyable experience all the way through. It got tricky really just from a planning point of view, logistic point of view, on the whole roof. Apart from that, it was fine. This Superstructure section here is all one piece, so's this part. They went on fine. You put the fenders on to sort of make up the lower portion, and then this clips in, and it did just snap in. Where there was a little gap, these intakes filled it, so that wasn't an issue, and they did the same there. These here, these boxes you glue onto this Superstructure part, they were fine, but I had to clamp them because there was just a little bit of warping, So I just used some clamps just to hold them to make sure they were completely flush against the side of the superstructure. I don't remember any other issues. The running gear was fine. I did have a little bit of a problem getting all the wheels one level with the ground and then two in line, but I always have that problem. Now, one thing I would suggest going forward is you've got a fixed idler position back here. I'm pretty sure that they're always movable, and I don't think there's any difference in the Panzer III. I think it runs along this bar back there, so it would fix along that bar. I would just try and make that movable somehow, just to give you a little bit of give, because I could not get these tracks on flush. So what you get is a length across there, a length across here, and then a piece there, and then you get individual links going around. So I had to put a bulge in it. Now, I can't do that up here because this is fixed. I can't do it around here because this would be tight to the idler. I can't do it here because it would be tight to the sprocket. So the only options I had was here or there. Now, when I've looked at German vehicles, they do have a sag here when they're moving. Because if you think, well, I suppose it can be pinched there as well, but it's usually when they're moving. As you see them running, the sag is in this section, because if you think of the principle of, it would be being pulled by the sprocket at this point, so it'd be tight across there, and it would be all the weight on the vehicle, and the momentum going forward would be tight here, it's tight there, so the only place for the sag is here, where it's coming off of the tension on the sprocket, and then getting dragged under the road wheels. So that's what I've done, because my intention was to be showing this as if it was moving through a scene. Again, I think I'm over worrying about this, but I like to point these pieces out, and I like to sort of justify it in my own mind, because that's part of my modelling. So I had to put a little bit of a sag, and that's where I've done it there. I think that's perfectly fine. I've done it before in vehicles. I always find you can see it's more, it shows more there. It's more of a sweep. And again, I like to have some unevenness between it, because they wouldn't be exactly the same. Now, I actually think the link and length tracks are okay. They're a means to an end. They work, they're fine. If we could have got that idler just pulled back slightly, that would have pulled out the tension here. You needed sort of like the space for half a link. Often that is the case with link and length tracks. So it's nothing new. It's not against Takom especially, more than anyone else. I've even had it with some of the Tamiya kits. So I'm not surprised. And also, getting the wheels to level up, I always find that an issue with every single kit. It doesn't matter whose manufacturer it is, it's always an issue. I don't know whether it's me or everyone gets that, but I find it a very tricky part, making these all line up. So there we are. We've got the photo etch under here, this grill, and that was absolutely fine. All of this area at the back here, no issue. We've got the spare wheels. Now, I did have issue gluing these together, because I cut one of the pins down on one and not on the other, because I noticed you can actually see the cut down pins on the profile. So what I might do is take one wheel off, put one wheel on, and we've got some track pins. In fact, I seem to have another spare wheel. That might be half the issue. What have I done there? That might be a different wheel, is it? No, this is A. Oh. Where have I got that from? I might have done something funnier. I might have got the spare wheel from somewhere else. That's why it's an issue. Well, anyway, I'll be using this one. So I will put two spare wheels on. This is the wheel I had an issue with. Is there a difference? Because we got parts for a G in here as well. No, I can't see any difference there, apart from the Continental is much more pronounced. Ah, yeah, so the pronounced one is not from... What's from somewhere in this kit. Anyway, I've got another one, and I was going to look at some of this as well. Mention this in a moment, some of the spare parts you get. But yes, overall, very happy with this kit. Really impressed. I've got some link and length tracks. No, I haven't. I've got some link tracks left. So we've got these links of Oscat in here and there for spares, and they go well, they're going to go. I might find somewhere else to put them, but I'm going to put a line across there, and I might stow some spare track or have a look at some reference material. Now we've got the gun shield to go on, which goes here, and I might have that flat, or I might put the MG on, I don't know yet. But we've got a very nice MG34, it's a very nice piece, so it'd be good to use it. This is the G sprue, which has got, it's interesting, the gun shield quite a bit wider on the G, it's quite a bit bigger. We've got smoke launchers, a spare barrel, different hatches, and a cupola. Help if we can see it, Jason. So we've got cupola, and we've got the periscopes, the gun, machine gun, the actual gun, smoke launchers, a few other small bits. So that's on there left over. Like I said, we've got a spare wheel and a number of parts here. So we've got the Bosch headlights, we've got fittings for Schwarzen, again smoke launchers, some of these little hooks that go on places. We've got 2 of them, and then we've got some spare tools. So we've got a fire extinguisher, spare tools, an antenna holder mount, I guess, track pins. So that's quite good. It's always good to have spares. We've got another sprue A, which has got all that stuff again. And then on here, not much at all. We've just got these 2 rods, which I've gone all through and checked that I'm not meant to have used them, and I'm not. Kit value-wise, I think, for what you get. So you get your individual track links, you get lots of photo etch, you get a metal gun barrel, you get copper wire for the tow cables. It builds fine, it's absolutely fine. I really enjoyed it. The one thing I will say, this took me 1.5 hours, there's no good way about it, and it is an absolute pain. But I got it on there and I'm pleased enough with it. I think it's clean enough for what it is. It's a little bit of super glue staining, but there we are. The whole thing was just very difficult. But it's on there now, so I'm not going to worry too much about it, and it is an impressive part of the F, and it is something you've got to get through one way or another. There is no plastic alternative, that's the only downside. I don't like seeing intricate photo, I mean it's fine with grills, you just don't put the grills on, but with something like this, I mean it would have been nice to at least had an attempt at a plastic version, because I can imagine the way I had to go about that, I would think quite a few modelers may even break it, and then I don't know where you go from there. There may be 3D alternatives, printed alternatives, but yeah, it is a bit of a pain. Typical German thing, it's way over the top for what you need, isn't it? But there we are. This is how it comes. It's in a section like that, and then you've got this former to put it over, and I've got super glue stains on here because I used this because it sort of bent, and then as you take it off it splays out, and you've got to put this bar around, this one piece around it. So I slotted that on there and then just used extra thin super glue just to dab it and hold it, and then when I got it in here I bent it inside this plastic frame that you have to put on that again doesn't fit in the holes that they give it to you, and then ran extra thin super glue in between, and I think I've got away with it. I can't see any major super glue stains. There's a few bits on the joins here which I can just scratch off. Other than that, I think it's reasonably clean, so I'm pretty happy with that. The last thing to mention as well is the tool clamps. Very impressed with these. They don't come with a hole like that. I drilled that out, so I used a drill bit just to start the hole, and then I used a scalpel just to scrape it from a hole to a rectangle, and then used Tamiya extra thin just to blend it all in, and that's very good. You know, there's nothing wrong with them. You don't need to replace them. Absolutely fine. And they look like, I don't know, I think they look like Type 2. No, they probably look like Type 1, the ones that have got like a clasp and it goes in it like that. That's the one type, and then the other type is like you've got the bottom section's like this and it hugs over onto a lip like that. It's got a lip like that, or you go like that, and it's got these bits sticking out that means they can't pull back. That's the two types basically. One's simplified. I think that's the later one, type 2. Yeah, so all in all, very happy with that. A little bit rambling, I'm afraid, but there we are. That's what we do. We've got the optics here, which you can put in this door. It's open, if it's open. And that's it. So I'm going to get this one now sprayed up. My plan is to do German grey. So we'll finish off by talking Panzer grey, by talking about colour schemes, because I've got a feeling, looking at this and looking at some reference, some were grey, but I've got the feeling that quite a few, if not most, commonly it would have been Troppen. Probably Troppen 2, because we're running into 1943. So I've got a feeling, in fact, all the options in this kit are, they're saying Dunkelgelb and olive green. I don't think Dunkelgelb was available. Well, it wasn't being used at this point, late 1942. So I've got a feeling these would be Troppen, and I also got a feeling they'd be Troppen 2. So it'd be the later colours, not the ones used, well, the later colours. So I wanted to go German grey with a whitewash. Now I'm not sure if that's possible. So if anyone knows out there and could let me know or give me a bit of guidance, I do have a feeling there was some grey and it was transitional into Troppen. I've got all the colours, so looking at the colours I've got that I'd be using, so this is Panzer grey, this is Troppen 1, and then that's one of the base colours for Troppen 2, but I don't think I've got the green. I've got olive green, which is the late war one. So there we are. I can get there or thereabouts, so we won't get too far down that road, but these are the colours I'd be using, and I'd prefer to use tank grey. So if anyone can confirm that Panzer grey is a legitimate colour, that's what I'd like to be using. That's my vision, really. I see it's not in any of the schemes in the box, so I'd probably just need to go crosses and not have anything else, where there are a couple that have crosses and nothing else. So that's the idea. So any help on the schemes would be fantastic. I hope this is of interest, and now you've seen the build up, it reaffirms what I was saying in the review, and it looks like a nice kit. There will be a full build video into paint with this one once it's done. Obviously this is live, this is the morning of this video going up, so it's very live. So there we are. We'll be back to normal videos from next week. I hope you've enjoyed this little build review. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.